Question 3. A carbon atom contains 6 electrons, 7 neutrons and 6 protons. State the mass number of this carbon atom. So I know that the mass number is the number of neutrons plus the number of protons. So neutrons has a mass of 7, protons, there are 6, so that gives a mass of 6. So if I add those together, that gives me 13. Give the electronic configuration of this carbon atom. So if we look at the question, they tell me there are 6 electrons in the carbon, and I know that the first shell can only have 2 and then it's full up, and then the next number of electrons will be on the second shell, so I'll have 4 on the second shell, and I can only go up to 8, remember, but in this instance I've only got 6, so 2 plus 4 gives me 6. B. Diamond and graphite are both forms of carbon. In both substances, the carbon atoms are held together by covalent bonds. Describe what is meant by a covalent bond. So I know that with a covalent bond, and this is just something you have to learn, is when we have electrons that are being shared between atoms. And it's when I have 2 or more electrons which are shared between atoms. So that will get me my 2 marks. Part C, explain in terms of its structure how graphite conducts electricity. Okay, so explain. Okay, so I need to have a point and I need to explain it. So graphite, if I just draw myself a little diagram just so I can remember, is where I have all the positive parts of the atom, so that's the protons and the neutrons, and then I have all the negatives just flowing around in between the positive parts. So for my 2 points here, okay, for my point, I'm going to say that there are 3 electrons, and I'm going to explain how it conducts electricity by saying that the 3 electrons are able to flow. And as those electrons move, that's what a current is. An electric current is the flow of electrons. Okay, question D. Diamond and carbon dioxide are both covalent substances. Draw a dot and cross diagram to show the covalent bonding in a molecule of carbon dioxide. Show outer electrons only. Okay, so they've told me that it's CO2, I know that anyway, and so I've got to draw myself a dot and cross diagram. So I'm going to start off by drawing my circle. So here's my carbon, and I'm going to have 1 oxygen on this side and 1 oxygen on this side. Okay, now I need to know how many electrons are in the outside shell of each one. Okay, so for oxygen and for carbon. Now, if I look at my periodic table, which is at the back of the exam paper, I know that oxygen has got 6 in its outside shell and that carbon has 4 in its outside shell. Okay, and I already know that from here anyway, from the question that I answered earlier. Now, I know that when I draw this, and when atoms join by covalent bonding and they share electrons, what they want to do is they want to make full outer shells. So this oxygen here is trying to get to 8, this oxygen is trying to get to 8, and this carbon is trying to get to 8. Okay, so this oxygen wants to have 2 extra electrons. And so I'm going to draw this carbon, okay, which here's my 2 carbon ones. My carbon is sharing 2 of its electrons with my oxygen, okay? This carbon needs to get 4 more. It's going to get 2 from this oxygen and 2 from this oxygen. So here's the 2 that it's sharing, okay? So let's just check that. It's got 6 already. I'm going to add on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's its 6, but it's being shared. It's sharing 2 of carbons, okay, to make it up to 8. So that's correct. The same thing is going to happen on this side. So I've got my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which are my oxygen. And then I'm going to get 2 being shared from the carbon to take it up to 8. Now let's just check my carbon now. It started with 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. There they are, the 4 crosses. And now does it have 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It does. So diamond has a very high melting point. Explain why the melting point of diamond is very high. So I have to know that diamond is, and again this is a PE question, okay, because of the explain. So diamond has a giant covalent structure. And each carbon is bonded to 4 other carbons. Okay, so here's my points. Okay, now why does it have a high melting point? It's because it takes a large amount of energy, large amount of heat energy or of energy is needed to break the bonds between the carbon atoms.